Hello, Matt Davis here with more homework quiz help. This one comes from section 3.5. The players in a baseball league average 16.3 home runs per season with a standard deviation of 9.4 home runs. A player's home run total has a z-score of negative 0.883. What is the number of home runs for that player? Round your answer to the nearest whole number. So we're going to make a change here in the interest of giving help rather than answers. We're going to change that z-score, and instead of the one they gave us, we're going to work with a z-score of negative 0.670. So we're going to do the problem, but we're going to use those numbers. They don't say it precisely here, but it says the players in a baseball league. The assumption there should be that it's all the players in the baseball league. So I'm going to say this is the population mean mu, and this is the population standard deviation sigma. Turns out the math is the same if it was sample information, and that's an X bar and an S, so that's not crucial, but we want to have some labels as we work through the problem. So what is the number of home runs for this player? Well, to answer that, we just need to be able to translate what does the z-score mean. If the z-score is negative 0.670, that means that the number of home runs we want, which will be an X value, is going to be the mean minus 0.670 times the standard deviation. That's because the z-score tells us that a z-score of negative 0.670 tells us that the x we want is 0.670 standard deviations below the mean. So the number of home runs, which would be an x value, is the mean minus 0.670 times the standard deviation. Since a negative z-score tells us we're below the mean, we have to make sure we're subtracting from the mean. Then we plug those numbers in. So the mean is 16.3. We put the z-score, and then we multiply that by the standard deviation, which was 9.4. They want us to round this to the nearest whole number. So why a whole number? Well, this is the number of home runs for a player, and it can't really be a decimal. So if we get a decimal, that doesn't make sense. We'd round it to the closest whole number, and that would be a more logical answer. So let's go to the calculator and take a look at that. We would type the 16.3 for the mean. We have a negative z-score, so we want to end up below the mean, so we subtract 0.670 times the standard deviation, which is 9.4. So we're taking the mean, and we're subtracting 0.67 standard deviations away from that. We get 10.002. So going back, let's get a pen, 10.002. So again, that can't be the real answer. A player could not have hit 10.002 home runs. So we're going to round that to the nearest whole number like they asked and say that it's 10 home runs. And that's what we'd put in the box, and that's the end of the question. Just a quick comment on that, why isn't it coming out to be a whole number? Well, when they computed the z-score for us, they knew that it was 10 home runs, and they computed the z-score, and they rounded it to 3 decimal places. When they rounded it, that brought rounding error in right here. If you have rounding error in one of your numbers, you get rounding error in the answer. So it's because the z-score is rounded. That's the reason we're not getting a whole number, but we need to know better and say, well, the number of home runs can't be a decimal, so we'll round that to the nearest whole number. They put that in the directions too, so we shouldn't get too thrown off by that. All right, the key thing is with a negative z-score, you're subtracting. Don't subtract a negative, though. If you put a minus for subtraction and a minus on the z-score, the two negatives would make a plus, and you would end up above the mean. So just know that a negative z-score means we subtract, and that negative on the z-score is what becomes our subtraction. All right, I hope that cleared this one up for you. Good luck as you head back to the quiz and try it again.